And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Radio Show.
Thank you, Paul. You get over your cold?
Oh, yeah, it's just fine.
Sound good.
Daydreaming. I didn't
What?
hear you talk. I was daydreaming.
He was daydreaming, he said, friend.
Didn't hear you talk to me.
No, I just wanted to be sure you're ready to assist us in the next half hour because we've got some interesting features. We've got Down the Byways coming along and Hobby Hut, and we're trying to increase our listenership today by offering a fortune in prizes to the first person who can identify our Bob and Ray mystery tune. We'll play a few notes of a popular song, and if you can name it, you just race to the phone and call us. You could win a giant cash jackpot that has now grown to $21.
In addition, you can win a lot of valuable merchandise prizes by being our lucky caller. You'll receive a coupon good for $5 off on the purchase of any new car or truck from Murdoch Motors in Shady Grove, Missouri. Also, a lovely ballpoint pen is yours free when you finance that car purchase through the Drovers State Bank of Shady Grove.
And last but far from least, you'll get a free cup of coffee at the Shady Grove Cafe while you're waiting for your car loan to be approved. So grab a pencil and jot down our phone number. It's...
Well, unfortunately, our studio engineer went ahead and played the tune.
You like that?
Bob could give you the number to call. However, we're in the book, so if you'll just use common sense about it.
Oh, somebody did, I think. Apparently, we have at least one listener with common sense because our first call is coming in right now. Hello.
Hello? Is this the Bob and Ray phone number that's in a different area code, but that I cleverly obtained anyway?
Yes, and my congratulations to you on being bright enough to reach us, sir.
Well, thank you. It was especially miraculous since I'm calling from Tahiti, where it has to be handled by an overseas operator and usually takes several hours.
Well, it's amazing to hear from a listener halfway around the world. Now, can you identify our mystery tune?
Oh, sure. I recognize it right away. It's a local Polynesian folk song entitled Na Husami Kula Wahama.
No, I'm terribly sorry, but you're wrong.
Wait a minute. I need to translate that into English for you because that may be the way you've had it listed.
Well, yes, we do have it in English, but even so,
But that's what I thought. So to win the prize, just let me add that Na Huami Kula Wahama means the lovely Huami is in bloom on the side of the Wahama.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. That still isn't close.
It only seems that way because I haven't finished translating. You see, Huami is the flower. Well, it's similar to that you people in the States call a geranium.
That's very interesting, but there's nothing like that in the title of our mystery tune.
Oh, then we'll come back to that. First, let me tell you about Wahama. That's the Polynesian word for one of those things that slopes down next to your house. What do you call those?
Well, I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you know, when your house sits up high and there's a slanty piece of ground that drops down to the street. What do you call that in English?
Well, I don't think it has a name. It's just an embankment.
That's it. That's the word, embankment. So in English, that makes the title of the song, The Lovely Geranium Blooms on the Side of Your Embankment.
No, definitely not. Today's mystery tune, sir, was Begin the Begin.
What does that mean in English?
Well, I'm not completely sure, but however...
Well, how do you know I'm not right?
Well, I've heard the lyrics. When I try to substitute your words, they don't make any sense.
I'd be willing to bet that a begin is either a geranium or an embankment.
No, I'm quite sure it isn't.
Well, I think you're being pretty arbitrary for a guy who admits he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
This phone call is costing me an arm and a leg, and you won't even give me the benefit of the doubt. I plan to see my lawyer about this.
Fine, you do that, and goodbye and aloha.
Aloha is a Hawaiian. I'm in Tahiti.
Wherever you are, you struck out. And that means we'll be adding, how much, Ray? $3 to our giant jackpot next time when we again search for a winner in our Bob and Ray Mystery Tune Contest. Now we bid you a most cordial welcome to the Bob and Ray Public Service feature, You and Your Symptoms. Here with us again to answer a vital health question sent in by one of our listeners is Dr. Nurkambi Oberholzer. Dr. Oberholzer.
Excuse me, you better just make that Mr. Oberholzer for today. I should have gotten my MD certificate from that correspondence school in Honduras by now, but I guess it was delayed in the mail.
Oh, maybe. It'll be along shortly, enabling you to launch a brilliant medical career. Meantime, here's a question received from a sickly gentleman in Kansas who writes, 3 days ago I developed a runny nose and a sore throat and a slight temperature. My doctor told me to stay in bed and drink plenty of liquids, and he never mentioned the name of the disease I have. and I'm worried that he's keeping something from me. Can you give me a diagnosis?
Well, what part of Kansas did you say the man is from?
I don't think he mentioned that, but it may be here someplace. Oh, the postmark is Topeka.
Well, at least we have that much to go on. You know, when there's an outbreak of bubonic plague, it's important to pinpoint the exact location as fast as possible.
Oh, what makes you think this man is suffering from bubonic plague? It just sounds like a simple head cold to me.
Well, the symptoms are quite similar in the early stages, and it takes a skilled medical person to know that very few residents of Kansas can catch cold at this time of the year. So I'm sorry to say that only one other diagnosis remains, and
Well, if you're certain...
that's assuming the patient doesn't start throwing fits. Now, if he starts throwing fits, then his illness could just be the result of a curse put on him by some spooky person in the neighborhood.
Well, that sounds better than bubonic plague. So for his sake, I hope it's only a curse. Thank you, Mr. Oberholzer, for answering another listener's health question here on today's session of You and Your Symptoms. Over to you, Ray.
Well, thank you. We're fortunate in having here in our Bob and Ray Consumer Affairs in the studio our Bob and Ray Consumer Affairs Advisor Hoyt Netley with us again today. Mr. Netley is on the staff of Syracuse University. And, sir, I hope your trip to the studio hasn't caused you to, neglect any of the students up there.
No, I don't imagine they've even noticed I'm gone. They're usually busy attending classes and things of that type.
All right. Well, come to think of it, you've never told us exactly what you do at Syracuse. I just assumed you were a member of the faculty.
Well, you're quite right about one thing, Ray. I've never told you exactly what I do up there.
Well, I guess you still don't want to go into it, so let's move right along to a discussion of the consumer products that you've evaluated since your last visit here.
Well, I have one item here that I certainly want to warn parents against buying, Ray. It's a children's bath toy, as you can see. A ducky is what my little grandson would call it.
Well, it's a duck, all right, but so far as being a bath toy, I don't
I'm glad
think
to see you have some reservations about it, too. I'd say it's much too large for very young children to play with safely in the tub. But the worst part is that it's not made of soft rubber or lightweight celluloid.
No, it's obviously made of wood, but the reason for that...
I know what you're thinking, Ray. It's probably imported from some third-world country where wood is cheaper than sponge rubber or celluloid. But that's no excuse for parents to let their toddlers risk picking up a lot of splinters in the tub, wouldn't you agree?
Well, yes, I guess I'd agree. But the point really is...
Also, Ray, these cumbersome things are not cheap. They actually cost more than plastic or rubber ducks. And that's another argument against buying one for your small child to play with in the tub.
Well, I don't think you need to present any more arguments on that, Mr. Netley. This duck isn't intended for children to play with. It's a hand-carved duck decoy made for hunters.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware that those people played with toys in the bathtub. But I still wouldn't recommend buying one. Even grown-ups can get splinters in the soft, fleshy parts of their bodies.
Okay. Well, then your safety warning about the product is certainly in order. Now, I see you have something over there that's labeled Bargain of the Week.
Oh, yes. These are really something, Ray. They're small, round discs that come in packages of 12 at the hardware store for only 49 cents. I've found that each disc can be used in a public telephone to make a 25-cent call, so that's a remarkable saving.
Well, this is a package of lead washers, Mr. Netley.
Yes, I believe it makes some mention of that on the wrapper.
Well, do you think it's legal to use one of these instead of a quarter to make a phone call?
Well, I really don't know about the legal aspect. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a consumer affairs advisor. I can spot a bargain when I see one.
Indeed you can, sir. And at 12 for 49 cents, they could save a person a lot of money before he's arrested. Mm-hmm. So what's next?
This is a daily newspaper I bought with me from Syracuse, Ray, but there are others similar to it available in most cities.
Yeah, we have them here, too. What about them?
Well, they're a consumer ripoff, Ray. The publishers send children barely in their teens out to sell subscriptions to these things at prices ranging up to 25 cents a copy, even more in some places.
Well, I guess newspapers are even more than 25 cents in some places. Well, what's your point?
Well, I was shocked to find that the items I paid good money to read in this paper are the same ones I get on television newscasts for nothing. I wonder how many consumers know that.
I have no idea.
I think the public should wake up. The idea of using cute youngsters as shills to sell newspaper subscriptions is appalling. And I admit the initial cost of a television set is higher, but once you've amortized that over the course of a few years, you're getting all your news free.
True, and of course it would take even less time to gain back the cost of a radio than a TV set.
Maybe. I haven't checked the price of new radios in years.
Well, that might be a consumer topic for you to pursue on a future visit then.
Might very well be.
But I see we're about out of time for today, so we'll say thanks for now, and we'll all look forward to your next visit from Mr. Hort Netley, the Bob and Ray Consumer Affairs Advisor. Nice jacket.
Thank you. Join us now as we journey once again to Garish Summit, with its endless tales of intrigue among the socially prominent. There, in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our drama continues, irresponsible Caldwell Murchfield remains in control of the family business after seizing power from his weak-willed brother Rodney. We find Caldwell in his new executive office as Rodney enters for what may be the last time.
Hey, Rodney, how'd you get in the building? I told the guards to take away your gate pass after I cleverly got you fired.
Hey, let me in to file some papers with the health insurance office, Caldwell. I'll need to spend several months in a sanitarium now that you've shattered my career by conniving to have Mother fire me as president of the Murchfield Lead Company.
Well, I think you're being a little overly dramatic, Rodney. Besides, you can't use your company health insurance to go to a sanitarium. I had your policy canceled the day you went off the payroll.
Caldwell, your cruelty sometimes defies belief.
Thank you. Now, if you'll be good enough to clear out. Your tears are making spots on my genuine leather chair.
Very well, I'll go. But I'm not finished with you. I'm convinced you have some dark secret to hide, and when I discover what it is, I plan to tell Mother so she can fix your wagon good.
Do come in, young man. I'm Agatha Murchfield. The butler said you brought me some scandalous news about my son Caldwell.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Sparky, and I work in the mailroom at Murchfield Lead.
Well, that's a good place to start rising through the ranks. My son Rodney began in the mailroom, and he was soon president of the whole company.
Well, of course, being your son may have helped his career along.
Yes, as I recall, I made him sales manager before the end of his first week, and that was before my other son, Caldwell, earned his Master of Business Administration degree from Harvard and became a more qualified executive than Rodney.
Well, that's what I came to talk to you about. You see, I noticed Caldwell's diploma in his office, and the word Harvard is spelled wrong on it. Also, the signature at the bottom reads Mickey Mouse.
Are you inferring that Caldwell's diploma may be a forgery?
It's phony as a $3 bill, if you'll excuse my French.
I don't know what to say. Why would Caldwell deceive me just to take over the firm from his beloved younger brother?
Oh, I can think of a couple of reasons, ma'am. First, he has a burning hatred for his beloved younger brother, and second, Caldwell owes such a big gambling debt to the mob that he needs to embezzle a lot of company funds. Just call this phone number and ask for Mr. Big if you don't believe me.
Hey, Lefty, I want you to answer the phone if it rings. That Welch Caldwell Murchfield may call and beg for more time to make his loan payment. He needs to be told we mean business.
Sure thing, boss. I'll talk to him real scary and then make that strange throat noise that lets people know I'm a mad dog killer.
That's probably him now. Get it.
Got it. Hello, Underworld Enterprises. And before you say a word, just let me tell you one thing, Murchfield. Guys who deal with us get their fingernails pulled out for being slow with the checkbook. What? Oh, sorry, ma'am. I was expecting somebody else. It's for you, boss, a dame.
Hello? Yeah. I got the figures on his balance right here. It's $495,000 plus this week's interest, which comes to a total of $612,800. Yeah. We take cash, if you got proper identification. Okay. Fine. Goodbye.
Who was it?
Murchfield's mother. She's going to pay off his debt. And then get even by doing something worse to him than we ever dreamed of.
Will Caldwell mistakenly blame Rodney for tipping off Agatha? Will Rodney mistakenly file a claim with Blue Cross even though he has no health insurance? And what about Mr. Big's assumption that the woman on the phone was really Agatha? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear Caldwell say,
Gee whiz, Mom. No TV for a week just because I've been naughty?
That's in the next thrilling episode when we once again return to Garish Summit. And now, just a brief reminder that the fine entertainment on today's show is being brought to you in part by the McGonigal Soap Company. Only McGonigal's, among all leading brands of bath soap, still contains the time-tested formula of animal fat, lye, and pine tar that won the trust of your grandmother almost a century ago.
Take it from us, friends. Nothing beats lye for reaching dirt particles embedded deep down in your skin. And that touch of pine tar in McGonigal's adds the scent of a freshly paved country road to your bath. So next time you shop for bath soap, pick up the dark gray bar in the attractive dark gray box. McGonigal's.
Then notice how fresh and tingly you feel after you've scraped it across your tender skin. The name again, McGonigal's. If it was good enough for your grandmother, it should be good enough for you.
And now, through the magic of live radio, we again join Farley Gerard in a remote corner of America as he continues his endless tour down the byways. Today, Farley has parked his deluxe motorhome in Flaxton, North Dakota, to bring us another of his homespun reports. So come in, please, Farley Gerard.
Long years ago, the one-room schoolhouse was the cultural center of small-town America, but no more. Today's farm children ride on great yellow buses to consolidated schools far away, except in a few places like Flaxton, North Dakota. In Flaxton, the doors of the one-room school remain open, thanks to 49 years of effort by a man named Emmett Horvath.
Excuse me, but it's been 51 years of effort.
The exact figure isn't important, so if you just let me finish setting the scene here.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Emmett Horvath is the only teacher at the Flaxton School. He's also the janitor and the choir master and the baseball coach. And he's been doing it all for almost half a century now.
It's been more than half a century. 51 years is more.
Well, I can see you're not going to let me finish with this, Mr. Horvath. Suppose you just tell us why you've operated the Flaxton School for so long on the small budget you're given.
Well, I love working with kids who thirst for knowledge. It started years ago when they'd flock around and ask me questions just because I was the only one who'd been to high school at the county seat.
Their little eyes shining with inquisitive wonder, I suppose.
Not that I recall, no. It was more like they'd come to me and say, "How much is 6 times 4, Mr. Horvath?" And I'd say, "About 10, I think." And then they'd be happy to have learned something new.
They'd be happy even though it's 6 plus 4 that's 10, not 6 times 4.
Yeah, I just give them the best answer I could. And they'd be pleased. Same way their children and grandchildren are now when I answer questions here at the old Flaxton School.
But now, of course, you have books where the youngsters can look up the correct answers with your help.
No, this is kind of an old-fashioned community. The people don't believe in a school with a lot of frills. So there's never been any money for books or things like that.
In other words, the vivid memory of your own education has been the sole source of learning for 2 generations of local children.
That's right. As General Custer put it, a teacher is a beacon of light for those who could otherwise live in darkness.
Well, that's a grand quotation, even though I'm sure it doesn't come from General Custer.
Well, I tell the kids it does. And, of course, their parents back me up because I taught them the same thing 35 years ago.
Well, it's good to know that you've been consistent in your teaching down through the years.
Oh, yeah. You can't confuse kids by changing your facts. Like I remember years ago when a student asked me what the largest country in the world was. I didn't know for sure, so I said Mexico, just to satisfy her.
And you never corrected your mistake?
Well, I don't know that it was a mistake. Everybody who went to the Flaxton School for the past 51 years thinks that the largest country in the world is Mexico. So maybe it really is.
Tell me, Mr. Horvath, have any graduates of your school ever tried to go on to college?
Yes, one girl did, but she flunked out of A&M the first year. I never understood that. She always seemed like a bright kid when she was here at Flaxton.
Well, maybe she just got homesick and it hurt her grades.
That's quite possible. I've always felt that children should be educated close to home so they can learn from their parents as well as from me.
But, of course, their parents were also misinformed by you.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle, and I hope I keep it going for as long as I can to ring this old school bell here. Kids are, naturally inquisitive, and they'll always have a place to come drink from the cup of knowledge while Emil Horvath is around.
And so an old man's dream continues to burn bright here on the barren plains of North Dakota. And a third generation of townspeople now benefit from that dream. Perhaps there aren't many one-room schoolhouses left because there aren't many Emmett Horvaths left. And we're glad we had a chance to meet this one. Now we pack up to leave Flaxton so we can meet other people and hear other stories down the byways. Till our next stop, this is Farley Gerard saying so long for now. Well, I think we have time for one of our favorite entertainment features, the Hobby Hut. Here in the weeks ahead, we hope to arouse your interest in a lot of new leisure time activities. To chat with the outstanding hobbyists in various fields, we feel honored to have with us Mr. Hobby himself, the editor of Wasting Time magazine, Neil Clummer. Welcome to our Bob and Ray family again, Neil.
Well, thanks very much. I've really been a big fan of you guys for years, Ray, so it's a real thrill.
I'm not Ray, I'm Bob.
Well, I never paid much attention to which was which. I'm usually cataloging my collection of obsolete razor blades when you're on the air, so I only listen with half an ear. But it's a real thrill to take time out from my more important work to appear with you regularly. And I think I have a very interesting guest for your audience to meet today.
Yes, I noticed that gentleman unpacking albums of some kind over in the corner there. So why don't I just bow out and let you proceed with your inaugural show here, Neil?
All right, we should do that, Ray. And now I'd like to introduce all of you listeners to the dedicated hobbyist who's going to be sharing his leisure time interest with us today. He's Mr. Gordon Blightwood of Kearney, Nebraska. Now, I wonder if you'd tell us what's in these beautifully bound albums that you've brought to the studio with you, sir?
Yes, most assuredly, Neil. I never get tired of showing these off to anybody who's interested in seeing them. For 30 years now, my life's been almost completely wrapped up in collecting meatloaf.
Well, that sounds like a fascinating hobby, and it's certainly a most unusual one, Mr. Blightwood. Are all of these albums filled with different recipes for meatloaf that you've picked up over the years?
I don't just collect the recipes, Neil. As I indicated, I collect meatloaf. I have thin slices of more than 800 varieties mounted in these albums. See, I arranged this system for mounting and preserving myself.
Yeah, I see now. Each album page has several openings where slices of meatloaf can be inserted, and there's a clear plastic over the front and back.
Yes, that's so you can observe the meat from either side without touching the specimens. And, of course, the space underneath for labeling. I had to design all this myself. There aren't any ready-made albums for meatloaf collections on the market yet.
Well, I'm sure it'll all change as the hobby gains in popularity.
Yes, undoubtedly. And I'm hoping someone will devise a cooling system for each album page. I keep my collection in the refrigerator at home, and when I take it out for display at hobby shows, some of the meatloaf starts to get a little gamey.
Well, I was noticing that this slice here on the first page is covered with a thick layer of mold.
Well, that specimen you're looking at is almost 60 years old, believe it or not, from a large meatloaf served at the White House during the Woodrow Wilson administration. And that's the last remaining slice known to exist.
I'm sure it must be the only one left. 60 years would be a long time for anyone to keep part of a meatloaf.
Yes, that's right. And, of course, that's the real challenge of this hobby. So many varieties are presumed to be extinct. History speaks of meatloaf made of wild pigs being eaten by the Prussians in the 17th century. But I've prowled through hundreds of antique shops in Europe, and I can't find any of it left.
Well, it's a shame to think of such a priceless collector's item being lost forever. But I guess with something that's perishable, it could all disappear in 300 years.
I'm afraid that's what happened. This slice right here is the oldest piece in my collection. It's venison meatloaf, made on the American frontier around 1840. I found it under the floor of a cabin that had been burned by the Indians.
Gee, you can really tell that's an old specimen, all right.
It's
just
old.
Looks like a little brown rock.
Well, of course, all the moisture goes out of meatloaf after a few years. I'm just lucky this didn't crumble into little scraps of hamburger. A lot of specimens that aren't put in albums do that.
Well, I know all those perils must add to the thrill of finding a well-preserved slice. And you say you have over 800 in your collection?
800, but of course most of them aren't too old or valuable. When I first started collecting, I just hung around the homes of celebrities and went through their garbage. meatloaf specimens I picked up there don't have much resale value, but I found it was a good way to fill up my first album without spending a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I can see it's a fascinating hobby, whether you're on a limited budget or have great wealth, Mr. Lightwood. and I want to thank you. Why don't you cover it up now? And I want to thank you for sharing your collection with us today. Now our time is about up, but we'll be looking into another interesting leisure time activity when we meet again soon in the Hobby Hut. Until then, this is Neil Clummer, urging you all to have a good day and find a good... Well, I don't know about you, Bob, but I sense a kind of uneasiness in the audience, which is usually a good excuse for us to leave before there's any bloodshed.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly, Ray, but there's nothing against trying to get away with it again next time before a different group.
I'm game. Meanwhile, thanks to Larry Josephson for developing and producing our show for the Radio Foundation, helped by our associate producer, Laz Hoel.
And thanks, of course, go to our musical director, Paul Taubman, our sound expert of many years' service to old B&R, Al Schaefer.
Technical director, David Glasser. Engineering assistants, Bonnie Newman, Miles Smith, and Jay Newland. And production assistants, Bill O'Neill and Charles Whitson.
Our program this week was recorded at Howard Schwartz Studios, New York.
The part of Howard Schwartz, as always, was played by Howard Schwartz.
Funding, in part, you might be interested in knowing, was provided by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund.
Now, this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
Additional funding from public radio stations. For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. Again, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. We regret that we cannot send a picture without a stamped self-addressed envelope. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.
And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Radio Show. Well, hi again, everybody, and we have such a full agenda here today that we got to get going right away. Our two senior news reporters, Wally Ballou and Arthur Skirmahorn, are covering a major story in Midtown New York today. So for their late report, we go now to Manhattan's Fessenden Hotel.
Lee Ballou here in the Gold Horizon room of the once fashionable Fessenden Hotel. Empty folding chairs are all over the place to my right for the news conference to be held shortly by Congressman-at-Large Grover Bushnell. Rumor has it that the congressman will be announcing his candidacy for president in 1988. So for the latest on those unfounded reports, let's switch now from the back of the conference room to the podium area and my broadcasting colleague, Artie Skirmahorn.
Arthur Skirmahorn here at the podium area of the Gold Horizon room. I'm not sure why Wally Ballou thinks I have any late word on Congressman Bushnell's plans from this vantage point, since no one else has arrived in the room yet. However, we are expecting the congressman to arrive momentarily, and everything is in readiness for his arrival. The carpet appears to have been recently vacuumed with its badly worn red pattern showing against a blue background. And now, as we await the start of the briefing, I believe that Wally Ballou has a guest with him. So come in, please, Wally.
Thank you, Artie. I do indeed have a guest with me. He's the first arrival at the news conference, other than the two of us. And you told me, sir, you are Carl Diesendorf of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Is it the Milwaukee Journal you're affiliated with?
No, I'm with Backerman and Finch out there. We're in wholesale plumbing fixtures. All top-of-the-line merchandise, chrome-plated faucets and that sort of thing.
I see. Well, why do you suppose a person in your field would be assigned to cover the news conference of Congressman Bushnell?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of doubt that anybody in my field is doing that. I just kind of wandered in here by mistake myself. I thought this was the door to the coffee shop.
Oh, well, then I don't suppose you'd be able to confirm or deny the report that Congressman Bushnell plans to become a candidate for president today.
No, I sure wouldn't.
Okay. Well, thanks for giving us the views of a typical voter like yourself. And now back to my colleague Artie Skirmahorn in the podium area.
Thanks, Wally. I might just inject a brief note of mystery into these proceedings. This news conference was scheduled to begin about 5 minutes ago, but so far there's little activity here in the Gold Horizon room. I suppose that could indicate that Mr. Bushnell is still trying to reach a decision about his candidacy. Do you have any thoughts on that, Wally?
Artie, very sorry indeed. I wasn't listening to your remarks, but I do have a guest here at the mic side with me, and I presume he's a member of the congressman's entourage. What is your name, sir?
No comprendo, no hablo inglés.
Okay, well, thanks for your time. And now back to my broadcasting colleague, Arthur Skirmahorn.
Well, I don't know why you keep sending it back to me, Wally. As you can observe from your vantage point, I'm still here alone. I found some sheets of scratch paper on the desks around the podium area, but all of them are blank, so that still leaves us very much in doubt about the congressman's presidential plans. Do you have anything to add from back at the rear of the room, Wally?
No, I don't, Artie. Back to you.
Thanks, Wally. While you were speaking, I noticed that a well-dressed employee of the hotel is entering through a rear door. I presume that means the news conference will be starting soon. Say, excuse me, sir.
Me?
Yes, sir. I'm Arthur Skirmahorn, Bob and Ray News. I wonder if you could tell me what's causing the apparent delay here.
The delay in what?
Aren't you an employee of this hotel?
Yes, I'm the assistant front desk clerk, Mr. Fonts.
Well, then I presume you're aware that Congressman Grover Bushnell is scheduled to hold a news conference here in the Gold Horizon room. It was supposed to begin 10 minutes ago.
You've got the right time, fella, but the wrong day. The congressman's news conference was yesterday.
I see. Did he announce at that time whether he'd be a candidate for president?
I'm not sure. I wasn't here, but I think he talked mostly about some plan he's got to build a dam in Pennsylvania.
Nothing about running for president?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Well, there you have it, America. Congressman Bushnell appears to be testing the straws in the wind. Meantime, he remains undecided about the presidency. That's the latest from the Fessenden Hotel. Now, for Wally Ballou and myself, this is Arthur Skirmahorn, returning it to Bob and Ray in the studio.
Welcome now to General Pharmacy, the dramatic story of handsome young druggist Ross Flecknoy and his struggle to save humanity at the prescription counter of a pharmacy still technically owned by his aging father. As our scene opens today, Ross is carefully itemizing his stock of salves and ointments when a well-dressed gentleman who's totally unknown to him approaches the prescription counter.
Oh, excuse me, I'm totally unknown to you, but I happen to be respected financier Dalton Shavy. News just came over the ticker that I've been virtually wiped out by an unexpected sell-off in cocoa futures. So naturally, I need this prescription filled.
Very well, but I'm afraid you'll have to wait until I finish itemizing my salves and ointments. If I lose count now, I'll have to start all over again.
I understand, but it still mystifies me why every major cocoa speculator in the world would choose to sell at the same time.
Good morning, Mr. Shavy. Remember me, Corky Watt, the ambitious young man you always tip an extra $1 for shining your shoes in front of the bank? Except you didn't show up there this morning, and I was worried.
Well, I'm afraid I won't be going to the bank anymore, son. I have no money left. It all went into cocoa futures on margin.
Okay, I can fill your prescription now, sir.
I had fully expected to double my fortune in a matter of days, but the market opened this morning with a sharp downside move, and I was wiped out.
I've saved every one of those dollar tips you ever gave me, Mr. Shavy, and I have almost enough now to hire another kid to work for me, shining shoes over on the west side.
There's nothing left now but my rambling estate overlooking the city, and I'm sure it will soon have to go to pay off my creditors.
If the prescription's been filled here before, I could look up the number in the file. That's one of the many humanitarian services I perform.
To think how many years I skillfully traded commodities to buy that estate. Now there's no telling where I'll live or what I'll do.
The way I look at it, I could furnish the polish and rags for another kid and still make a profit having him work on straight salary. Before long, I'll have hundreds of employees all over the county. I'm a real go-getter.
I'm only 52 years old. That's still the prime of life for most tycoons. But look at me. I'm finished.
Once I get about 50 kids hired, I'll be able to buy my shoe polish wholesale. After that, well, the sky's the limit. Representatives overseas, my own polish factory, maybe even a shoe shine conglomerate.
The worst of it is that I'll never be able to get full market value for my rambling estate overlooking the city. Not after potential buyers find out I'm in financial distress.
I'm afraid I'll have to fill somebody else's prescription first if you don't give me yours, sir.
Oh, that's all right. It doesn't make any difference now. Take this grubby little kid first, if you want.
I don't have a prescription. I'm so charged with ambition that I've never been sick a day in my life.
You're very fortunate, my boy. Good health is something money can't buy.
Yeah, but pretty soon I'll have the money to buy anything else I want. With my get up and go, I wouldn't even be surprised if I wind up living in that big rambling estate that overlooks the city, and I'll bet it'd cost $1 million.
I'd be willing to let it go for $700,000.
Sold.
Excellent. With that money, I can recoup my losses in the market in a month. Just wait and see if I don't.
And so, handsome young druggist Ross Flecknoy again provides a hopeless case with a will to live. But can even the most dedicated pharmacist remain free of heartbreak? Be sure to join us next time when we'll hear the president of the New York Commodity Exchange say,
Nice try, Shavy. The kid's check bounced.
that's in the next dramatic episode of General Pharmacy. Now, news of a product comparison test suggested by the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Friends, we don't expect you to take our word for it when we say that Einbinder is 30% tougher and more durable than ordinary flypaper.
And you can prove it to yourself. Hang a strip of the brand you've been using in a tile-walled bathroom and turn on the hot water in the tub. Notice how the stickum starts to run, and the paper begins to curl up in less than 24 hours.
Now, repeat the same test with Einbinders and see how it retains its shape and continues to function for up to a week. Doesn't this tell you something worth remembering? It should.
When you're shopping for flypaper, always ask for Einbinder, the brand you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
And now it's time for a real favorite feature of ours. We're going to pay another visit to the Bob and Ray Hobby Hut. And the gentleman who conducts that feature is Neil Clummer, the editor of Wasting Time magazine. Neil is known throughout the world as Mr. Hobby himself, and he just arrived with his special guest for today. So suppose you go right ahead and begin your interview, Neil.
Thanks very much, Bob. I do want to have as much time as possible this week because my guest is none other than Harvey Thaxter Wakeman, the premier collector of taxidermy specimens in the free world. I understand that you now have more than 600,000 stuffed animals, Mr. Wakeman.
Well, that's what the curators of my collection estimate, Neil. But until they complete their inventory for 1986, we won't know exactly how many stuffed animals, birds, fish, and insects I really do own.
Well, the collection must be growing rapidly for you to lose count of your specimens that way.
Yes, it's not just a hobby with me anymore. It's a compulsive mania to own every stuffed animal I see. And now that so many old-time taxidermists are either retiring or going bankrupt, I'm beginning to be offered their complete store of stocks. They know I'm always in the market.
Well, I don't imagine there are too many other people that a retired taxidermist could sell his whole stock to, but it must keep you busy, traveling to look at the collections that are offered.
Oh, yes. I'm on the road most of the time now, Neil. I did get back to my home in Chicago to spend part of last Christmas with my wife and children, but by doing that, I missed a chance to buy a rare stuffed pygmy crocodile. I'll never forgive Martha and the kids for causing me to blow that one.
Well, I know that every hobbyist listening can appreciate how much damage a selfish wife can do, but getting back to your collection, I'm sure that other stuffed animal lovers are wondering where you've found space to house 600,000 specimens.
Well, that's been a continuing problem, Neil. I started in one room of my home, and of course the collection outgrew that very quickly, and I bought the house next door. After that, I picked up an old abandoned dirigible hangar, and now I just keep scanning the paper for large buildings like that to buy.
Well, there aren't too many places as big as a dirigible hangar for sale, are there?
Well, they're not advertised on the open market, but you can find them if you know how to go about it. For example, When I read a few months ago that the Salt Lake City professional basketball team had folded, I called right away and bought their field house. Now I have almost 500 stuffed elephants stored on the ground level out there, and then up in the seats I have smaller specimens like owls, swordfish, insects, things like that.
Well, that brings up a question.
Excuse me, Neil. I might just add that I now have 14,500 stuffed specimens in the grandstand out there. Now, that's a bigger crowd than the Salt Lake City team ever drew for a basketball game.
Well, that's an achievement you can be proud of, sir, but I wanted to ask about the reference you made to insects in your collection. I never knew that insects were considered taxidermy specimens.
Well, it's true that some of my insects have been pickled rather than stuffed, Neil, but I collect them anyway if they have historical significance. For example, I recently bought 12,000 pickled locusts from a gentleman who said they'd been in his family ever since the Great Locust Plague of 1847.
I see. Well, in cases like that, could you tell us how you get documentary proof that the specimens you buy really have historical significance?
No, I wouldn't know how to tell you to do that. As I said, my avid collecting has grown into a compulsive mania, so I believe whatever people want to tell me. In fact, I barely even heard the guy who was telling me about the background of his 12,000 locusts. I was too busy writing out the check to buy them.
So in other words, you admit you may have been cheated.
How can I have been cheated? I got the 12,000 locusts, didn't I?
Yes, I guess you got a fair deal if the only important thing is owning 12,000 locusts, regardless of their background.
Yes, that was the only important thing. I had to have them. Incidentally, what do you take for those two specimens over there?
Well, I couldn't sell them, Mr. Wakeman. Those specimens are Bob and Ray, and they aren't stuffed, they're just asleep.
Well, here's my card.
Uh-huh.
Give me a call if you change your mind. And if they wake up and you want to talk business. Goodbye.
Gosh, we've been visiting today with the world's leading collector of taxidermy specimens, Mr. Harvey Baxter Wakeman. And now, until time for our next get-together in the Hobby Hut, this is Neil Clummer, urging all of you to have a good day and find a good hobby.
Well, get ready now, Paul, because we've reached the moment we consider to be the major highlight of today's show.
Which is saying a lot when you consider all the other highlights on today's show.
Right. Not the theme, Paul. We're only half done.
Oh.
Now, there is a chance for you listeners at home to win.
Did you see that blonde that's waiting for him outside?
Look, business before pleasure, Paul, all right?
Right.
Now, this is the chance for you listeners to win $24 in cash if you can correctly identify the Bob and Ray mystery tune that Paul is going to play.
Sit down, Paul. You have a lot of work to do. You heard him right, neighbors. We had no winner last time, so that means our giant jackpot has grown to an astounding $24.
But a fortune in cash is only part of the treasure that waits you. Tell them about the wonderful merchandise gifts
Right.
that wealthy friends of the show donated, right?
Well, there are a half dozen lovely souvenir ashtrays from the 1982 Knoxville, Tennessee World's Fair.
Oh, that was a good one.
They come from a generous sponsor who wishes to remain anonymous. Also, from the Starburst Recording Company of Hollywood, 50 brand new albums that were never released because they were all recorded at the wrong speed.
And last but far from least, the Yardwell Laboratory has donated a dozen bottles of headache remedy that might have become a bestseller if it had ever been approved by the Food and Drug Administration.
Altogether, there's a whopping $40 worth of merchandise to the first person who can correctly identify this week's mystery tune.
Now, you'll find our phone number in the yellow pages under Chances of a Lifetime, Wholesale and Retail. So look it up and be the first to call if you recognize this tune.
It's hard to believe we didn't get a single call on that. However, it means we'll be adding to the jackpot.
Wait a second, Ray. They have to look up the number and then dial it. That takes a little time.
I guess that's true. Some of them take their own sweet time about it, too.
It appears one listener has stepped lively because we do have a call. Hello.
Hello? I would have called sooner, but your number isn't listed in the yellow pages on the chances of a lifetime wholesale retail. I found it under promotions, cheap and flashy.
Well, I guess the listings vary from place to place, but the important thing is you did reach us. Can you identify our mystery tune?
Oh, sure I can. I've been hearing that one all my life. It's entitled, Buy Me Some Peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
No, I'm sorry. I believe that line may be in the lyrics, but it's not the title.
That's funny. I think that's why my grandpa Wallingham always called it that. But if it's not that, then... Oh, hey, the title must be, I Don't Care If I Ever Get Back.
No, I'm awfully sorry, sir.
Well, could it possibly be, let me root for the home team?
No, it couldn't possibly be that.
I didn't think so. Just give me one more guess.
Well, we don't usually let contestants have more than one guess, but you seem very close to the correct answer.
All right, we used to sing it when we all went out riding in Grandpa Wallingham's old Graham Page. Wait, I got it. The title is... If they don't win, it's a shame.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I'll have to call time
Wait,
on you.
I know the title. It's 1, 2, 3
No.
strikes, you're out.
No, you're just getting farther away from it now. The title is Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
How could that be? Those words aren't even in the song.
Oh, yes, they are. That's the first line.
I never knew that. I guess it's because I always cranked up the Graham Page for Grandpa Wallingham. By the time I ran around and jumped in, the other kids were already up to the part about buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Well, it's unfortunate, but thanks for giving us a call anyway.
And Grandpa Wallingham for always making me crank the Graham Page. He could have asked Billy Joe to do it once in a while. Down the boat.
Yeah, they truly did cause you to lose out on a wonderful opportunity today, but your misfortune means that our giant jackpot will grow to $27 next time when we again search for a lucky winner in our Bob and Ray Mystery Tune Contest.
Ladies, let me remind you that only 2 days remain to enter the giant sweepstakes contest now going on at your Monongahela Metal Foundry showroom.
There's nothing to buy and only a certain amount of obligation. But you could win a full new set of extra shiny steel ingots every month for as long as you live, or one of 528 smaller prizes.
And the sweepstakes contest is so simple to enter. You just visit your local Monongahela dealer and give him your estimate of the total number. If your guess is close, you're a winner.
But you must act before midnight tomorrow, so get on your thinking caps and start preparing your estimates now. And now come with us as we again return to Garish Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our action resumes, youthful executive Caldwell Murchfield has vanished, following the discovery that he embezzled funds from the family business to pay his gambling debts. Caldwell's brother Rodney is discussing the disappearance with Wallace Yodenfewer, chief engineer of the Murchfield Lead Company.
There's not much I can tell you, sir. I was at my desk trying to figure out why the number 17 isn't divisible into anything. And when I looked up, I realized that Caldwell hadn't been there all day.
I see. And when he left the previous evening, did he mention any personal problems that might have been bothering him?
No, people don't usually bring their personal problems to a mining engineer. I didn't take any courses at A&M on how to get along with other people. I guess it shows.
Yes, it does, Yodenfewer, but I'm overlooking that for now in my desperate effort to find Caldwell. Was there anything you might have seen around the office that could help us pick up his trail?
I don't think so. He was on the phone to his bookie most of the time.
Uh-huh.
That's about all I ever saw him do, except filch money out of petty cash and get it ready to mail to his secret Bolivian bank account.
I didn't know he had a Bolivian bank account, and I'm sure the police aren't aware of it either.
Well, that's probably because he went to so much trouble to keep it secret. I wouldn't have known about it either, except that he kept yelling over to my desk, "Hey, Yodenfewer, I've got more money here to mail to my secret Bolivian bank account. What did you say that post rate to Bolivia was again?"
How clever of you to figure out the true story behind that innocent-sounding question. I can just picture what must be happening right now somewhere in Bolivia.
Beats me, Slick. Murchfield said to meet him right here next to the teller's window at Bernie's Bank of Bolivia, but It's almost closing time and he never showed.
Yeah, something's wrong. He said he'd be here, and I know he wouldn't vanish permanently before he collected the millions he's got on deposit here.
I smell a double cross. We helped him steal that dough from Murchfield, Ed, and he promised to split it with us after we made it to Bolivia. What would you do if you had an appointment to shell out money and you were low-life scum like Caldwell Murchfield?
Gee, I don't know. It's hard for me to predict what other people will do. I remember once when my high school history teacher said there probably wouldn't be any essay questions on the final exam, but then, you know what she went right ahead and did?
Yeah, you told me a dozen times what she did. But I'm more interested in what Caldwell Murchfield's done. I could just picture him now, laughing at us, while he's living in luxury somewhere.
Here's your bread and water, senor. Now go lie down on your mat of straw.
Okay, but I don't think you people ought to give this kind of shabby treatment to a tourist. I may never come back.
You may never come back because you may never leave, senor. My government does not laugh ha-ha when others take us for fools. Did you think we would really believe that you're the noted Americano Walter Mondale?
I wasn't sure, but it was the only fake passport they had already made up at the place where I bought it, except for Mary Lou Retton. I figured I had a better chance passing myself off as Mondale.
Sacramento.
No, actually, I think he's from Minneapolis, but I may have put something else in those phony papers. What happens to me now, anyway?
Only time will tell, senor. My men have searched your luggage and found the name tags on your handkerchiefs. Now you must wait to learn why a man named Caldwell Murchfield might wish to keep his identity a secret.
Will Caldwell find that life in a Bolivian jail is much better than the future he faced in an American jail? Will engineer Wallace Jodenfuhr find that 17 is divisible by something else, after all? And what about the servant who foolishly sewed name tags on Caldwell's handkerchiefs? Be sure to join us next time when we'll hear the bank teller say,
You have 40 million pesos in your account, so here it is in American money. $19.68.
That's in the next exciting episode when we will continue with the endless story of Gary Summit.
Well, unless Paul Taubman has the wrong music on the stand, that's our theme song, and it means today's get-together rolls to an hilarious halt.
Our thanks, as usual, to Larry Josephson for developing and producing our show on behalf of the Radio Foundation.
Thanks also to his associate producer, Lars Hoel, who hates to buy a package of 4 batteries when he only wants 2.
Sound effects by Al Schaefer, who still can't picture which one was Haldeman and which was Ehrlichman.
Technical director was David Glasser. Engineering assistants were Marty Newman, Miles Smith, and Jay Newland. Production assistants were Bill O'Neill and Charles Whitson.
Our program came to you as recorded at Howard Schwartz Studios in New York.
Funding is provided by a major grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, additional funding from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund, and from public radio stations.
Now this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
And Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. Again, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. We regret that we cannot send a picture without a stamped self-addressed envelope. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.